Thank you so much.
So I think we turn the lid. So I think a good place to start off would be for you to introduce yourself, tell us who you are and who you work for,
Okay.
where this is.
Okay, sure. My name is Nissi Madu, and I'm the managing partner at iHUB. And we are at the kickoff of the third cohort of the Mastercard Foundation EdTech Fellowship program that we're implementing in partnership with the Mastercard Foundation.
So we've seen the cohort that is here today. We've seen some of the past cohorts. So what sort of role does iHUB play when it comes to what sort of role does iHUB play when it comes to ensuring that these businesses actually become successful and they grow beyond just initial growth phase and are able to become real businesses and sustain?
So iHUB plays a very significant role in ensuring this, and we do this by providing a number of different what we call services or support to the companies. The first one is around learning sciences and pedagogy, as it has to do with their product. As you know, it's an edtech company, and the education component of it is very important. And so the work that we do is ensuring that we do a review and supporting them on key optimizations and improvements that they need to make to the solution to ensure that the solutions can actually deliver on learning outcomes. The other one is also still connected to their product, but ensuring that the products are designed for global standards, not just because it's Kenya, so we can design it in any way, but making sure it's aligned to global standards. We also provide support around helping them think through structures that they need to put in place in their business to ensure growth and help them achieve their objectives. So structures that have to do with people, for instance. How do you put in place strategies and policies to attract and retain, high quality talent? Because you can have a great product, but if you don't have the right team, then you're not going to be able to achieve that. The next one is, now we have a great product, we have a brilliant team, you need to get the solution into the hands of millions of learners across Kenya, but also beyond that. And so we also provide them with support, distribution channels, go-to-market strategies, pricing, how to think about strategic partnerships, how to engage with stakeholders to then be able to see significant adoption for their solutions. But beyond that as well is around funding. So now for those of them who want to go on to raise commercial capital, how do we help them to be investment ready? How do we help them to note key things that investors would require so that they're able to unlock investment, but not just putting that together, but also connecting them to potential investors as well. There's also support around branding and marketing. It's one thing for you to have a great solution, it's one thing for you to know how to sell that solution. And so we do a lot of work around that, making sure that their brand identity is strong and is connected to the message that they're trying to pass across and the solution they're trying to sell. But that's a few amongst many other support services that we provide, just making sure that this company, before they come in, they're completely different, but when they leave, they have all that it takes to be able to ensure that they can truly deliver on, the goals of improving learning outcomes.
Yes, so also a rigorous selection process. One of the
Absolutely.
things that's been said about Kenya and other African spaces is a lot of fluff in terms of startups. So how do you make sure that these ideas, these companies will actually have the impact that we're talking about in the spaces in which they operate? Because, for example, the need in many of these spaces is actually quite acute.
So, yes, you're right. This selection process was quite competitive and very tough. It's always been really for all of even the former cohorts, because for us, when it has to do with deploying capital, it's not just finding a shiny company.
Yes.
It's about doing the due diligence to make sure that the company is everything that they claim that they are, and that we understand the gaps that they might have, and how we can support them to plug those gaps. But beyond that is we take an ecosystem perspective to what the education sector requires to be able to ensure that we can truly deliver on the goals of empowering our young people with skills for the future, which is really what we're focused on. And so it's looking at opportunities within the space as well as gaps within the space, and then looking at solutions that can potentially either right now taking advantage of those opportunities or plugging those gaps, or could potentially do that with our support. And that ecosystem perspective is also speaking to a number of stakeholders. I mean, you were here, we work very closely with the government, asking them what their priorities are so that we can also identify companies, that can plug those gaps or support them or work with them. So it's government, it's parents, it's teachers, it's schools. We're in all of those conversations so that we can take those insights into how we select the companies that we support to truly ensure that there's a holistic approach to achieving the goals.
So we saw the impact the first cohort, 1 and 2 have had with numbers.
Yes.
What's your vision? What's your expectation for this third cohort?
Oh, so for this third cohort, really, really have ambitious goals for them, and we know no doubt they're going to meet those goals. So hopefully in 6 months, we'll be talking about exciting numbers that they've also reached. And part of the reasons why we believe very strongly that they can even potentially surpass what cohort 1 and 2 has done is that a lot of their solutions are very scalable, and we were very intentional about that as well, so that we're ensuring that we're truly able to get the solutions into the hands of the learners who need them and whose lives will be transformed by virtue of engaging with it. And so we have really ambitious goals and targets and hopes for them. And the good thing about it is that we're here to work along with them to be able to achieve that every step of the way.
So 75% women in
Yes.
this cohort. Why is that important, especially knowing that sometimes they may not be getting the leg up that they need?
It's very important, honestly. If you look at the larger tech ecosystem, we often talk about the fact that female founders don't get a lot of support or don't get a lot of capital, even though they're building amazing businesses. And so for us, we're very intentional about supporting these women, and not just supporting, women who are building maybe nice solutions, but we really did the hard work to find women who are building amazing businesses. And that gender balance is very important, right? It's very important to have both perspectives of females and males in building solutions, so that we ensure that the solutions are truly inclusive and that all of the people we support and nobody essentially is left behind in the solutions that we're supporting and in the adoption of EdTech across the country.
Final question. There was mention that the disbursement of the funds would be based on measurement and evaluation and goals.
Yes.
Maybe talk about that so that we can see
Absolutely, yes. So, oftentimes in the tech ecosystem, when people hear about funding, people are excited, oh, it's free money, and especially when it's equity free, right? It's free money, no strings attached. But for us, every single capital that is deployed is important capital. And already we've talked about the fact that the EdTech ecosystem doesn't really get a lot of commercial capital. So it means that for every single capital that comes in, we need to be able to do more with less, essentially. And so for us, it's milestones based in how we deploy the capital. We sit down with the companies, we do a review, a needs assessment of the company across a range of all of these support areas, and we say, hey guys, these are the key things that we think you need to fix, and how do you allocate your funds based on those things? And it's mutually agreed. Sometimes it's very easy, they're like, oh yeah, great, we think that needs to be fixed. Sometimes it's like, oh no, we don't think that needs to be fixed, and then we have to come to that agreement. But essentially, it is as they implement these milestones and then the capital is deployed, it's basically ensuring effective use of resources to be able to achieve the kind of objectives that we envision. And at the end of the day, with all of this, it's about the lives of our young people who will be impacted. And so we keep that front and center and ensuring that discipline and effective and judicious use of resources to be able to achieve the objectives. Brilliant, thank you so much.
Comes the last question.
Yes, please.
You've seen so many solutions come through the process. Is
Yes.
there one that excites you and why?
Ooh, that's a very tough one. And so I'm not going to talk about one, but I'm going to talk about thematic focus areas for solutions that excite us. And one is around teachers, right? I've been around a number of counties here in Kenya speaking to government, and there's one that I often talk about. It was in Wasingishu County. And a county director said to me, I believe that the teacher is the classroom and the classroom is the teacher. You might have heard of a phrase that says, a really wonderful teacher can transform and deliver great learning even under a tree. And so one that we're particularly excited about is solutions that empower teachers, that make them do better in the classroom, that make them improve instruction in the classroom, that makes them focus on the core of their work, which is teaching, And so those are the type of solutions that excite us, because the ripple effect is immense when we're really truly able to support teachers to do better.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
How do these solutions that I have maybe makes and overseas, how do we make sure they get to each and every area, promoting inclusivity and also including the marginalized areas? How do we make sure they're localized and they get to those areas?
Yeah, sure thing. So, as we mentioned, inclusion is very important for us with EdTech. It's not just about young people in urban areas who have resources to access it that we're focused on. We're truly thinking about how do we make sure that these solutions are contextualized to be able to access even those in underserved communities or in rural areas. And so there are a number of things that we do in that situation. One is working with stakeholders, schools, teachers, county officials who are in these rural areas and creating an environment where they can co-design with the startups so that the startups understand their needs and are able to take that into consideration. It's also in terms of how we think about partnership and answering the question, who can pay? For solutions to get to these learners and for them to be able to have access and being really innovative about that process and thinking about bringing different partners, whether it's from private sector or the development sector, to be able to work closely with the startups to ensure that there's access to those solutions at the rural point. So those are two key things that we do.
Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.